7 shocking discoveries in Siberia that are changing everything we know about history. Hello everyone, and welcome to Ancient History. My friends, for hundreds of years, whenever people talk about the ancient civilizations that reshaped human history, they usually think first of Egypt with its colossal pyramids, Greece with its magnificent temples, or Rome with its engineering marvels that were centuries ahead of their time. Yet there is another vast land stretching across the northern reaches of Eurasia, a place blanketed year-round by snow, ice, and endless forests that has been quietly safeguarding secrets even more astonishing. That place is Siberia, in the Russian Federation. For decades, Siberia was widely regarded as a remote, frozen wilderness with little evidence of humanity's distant past. But the deeper archaeologists dig into its permanently frozen ground, the more amazed they become as one extraordinary discovery after another emerges. Discoveries that have the potential to transform everything we thought we knew about human history. From the tiny baby teeth of children who lived more than 30,000 years ago to remarkably well-preserved mummies, gold-covered tombs of ancient rulers, and exquisitely crafted jewelry dating back to the time when humans still shared the landscape with woolly mammoths, each discovery is like another priceless piece of a massive puzzle. Together, they are gradually revealing a forgotten chapter of history that lay buried beneath Siberia's frozen landscape for tens of thousands of years. What makes these discoveries especially remarkable is that many of them have forced scientists to reconsider theories that had stood for decades. Ideas once thought impossible are now being confirmed through ancient DNA, exceptionally preserved artifacts, and the most advanced analytical technologies available today. Some discoveries have helped unravel the origins of the ancestors of Native Americans. Others have uncovered the lavish lifestyles of Scythian warriors buried beneath massive burial mounds. Still others have left archaeologists asking an extraordinary question: were prehistoric humans really as primitive as we have always believed? So what is truly hidden beneath Siberia's ancient permafrost? And why does nearly every archaeological excavation in this frozen wilderness have the power to reshape our understanding of human history? Right now, join me as we begin an incredible journey through 7 groundbreaking archaeological discoveries in Siberia, astonishing secrets that are rewriting history, one discovery at a time, and compelling the scientific world to see this frozen land in an entirely new light. The 3,000-year-old intact tomb that revealed the secret of the earliest chariot drivers. Most of us probably associate horse-drawn chariots with powerful ancient civilizations such as Egypt, Persia, or Rome. These wooden-wheeled vehicles, complete with reins and teams of horses, are often pictured charging into battle, carrying nobles on hunting expeditions, or playing a central role in royal ceremonies. But what if evidence showed that the people of the frozen Siberian wilderness had already mastered chariot-driving technology more than 3,000 years ago? That is exactly what archaeologists discovered in the Excquisitely district of the Republic of Khakassia in southern Siberia, Russia. A remarkably well-preserved ancient tomb has provided crucial evidence that is forcing researchers to rethink the development of Bronze Age communities in this region. The excavation was led by Alexei Timoshenko, an archaeologist at the Institute of Archaeology and Ethnography of the Russian Academy of Sciences. Over several years, his team excavated numerous ancient burial mounds scattered across the vast plains of Khakassia, a region long regarded as one of Siberia's richest archaeological landscapes. Among the dozens of tombs they uncovered, one immediately stood out. Dating to approximately 3,000 years ago, the tomb belonged to the Lugov culture, a Bronze Age culture that flourished in southern Siberia before being replaced by the Tagar culture around the 8th century BC as the Iron Age began. Even more remarkable, the tomb had remained almost completely untouched by grave robbers. After lying undisturbed underground for 3 millennia, most of the artifacts were still exactly where they had originally been placed. For archaeologists, this is the ideal scenario. When artifacts remain in their original positions, researchers can accurately reconstruct not only the burial ceremony, but also important aspects of the deceased person's life. According to the excavation findings, the individual had been buried inside a square stone tomb beneath a large earthen burial mound. Beside the skeleton, archaeologists discovered several bronze artifacts, including a knife, pieces of jewelry, and an unusual belt assembly. At first glance, the belt appeared rather ordinary. In fact, for decades, Russian archaeologists referred to it by the rather amusing abbreviation PNN, short for an object of unknown purpose. No one knew exactly what it had been used for. No convincing explanation had ever been found, and the mystery remained unsolved for many years. Everything changed when new archaeological discoveries emerged from China and Mongolia. Inside Bronze Age burials belonging to ancient chariot drivers in those two countries, archaeologists uncovered accessories that were almost identical. That striking similarity finally solved the mystery. According to Alexei Timoshchenko, the object that had long been dismissed as having an unknown purpose was actually part of a chariot driver's equipment. It was attached to the driver's belt and featured a specialized metal hook designed to secure the reins. This allowed the driver to keep the reins steady, even when both hands were needed for other tasks or while guiding the chariot across rough terrain. The significance of this discovery is enormous. It proves that the people of the Lugov culture were already using horse-drawn chariots more than 3,000 years ago. In other words, they had not only domesticated horses, but had also developed remarkably advanced transportation technology for their time. This represents a major milestone in the history of the ancient peoples who inhabited the Eurasian steppes. Horse-drawn chariots were much more than simple vehicles. They allowed people to transport goods more efficiently, expand long-distance trade, and dramatically improve mobility during warfare. These discoveries also suggest that ancient Siberia was far from the isolated wilderness many once imagined. On the contrary, it may have been part of a vast network of cultural exchange stretching from Central Asia to East Asia. The appearance of nearly identical chariot accessories in Siberia, China, and Mongolia strongly suggests that these ancient communities exchanged technology, traded goods, or perhaps even traveled along transcontinental routes much earlier than previously believed. Researchers believe that the people of the Lugov culture relied primarily on livestock herding for their livelihood. They regularly moved across the expansive grasslands with their herds. Under those conditions, horse-drawn chariots would have been extraordinarily valuable. They not only made it easier to transport tents and possessions, but also enabled entire communities to travel much greater distances much more quickly. That may explain why the owner of this tomb was buried with such a distinctive piece of equipment. Perhaps he was an exceptionally skilled chariot driver during his lifetime. Or perhaps he held an important leadership role in his tribe's seasonal migrations. Whatever the case, the belt accessory was clearly considered important enough to accompany him into the afterlife. It is remarkable that a single, relatively small artifact can completely reshape our understanding of an entire period of history. Had archaeologists not been able to compare this object with more recent discoveries from China and Mongolia, it might still be sitting in a museum storage room labeled simply as an object of unknown purpose. And perhaps that is the greatest fascination of archaeology, wouldn't you agree? The 2,500-year-old amulet containing human bone, the chilling secret hidden in a Tagar woman's tomb. In the world of archaeology, some discoveries leave us in awe because of their immense scale: monumental pyramids, towering fortresses, or sprawling ancient cities. Yet there are also artifacts small enough to fit in the palm of your hand that have puzzled scientists for years, with their true meaning still not fully understood. Sometimes it is these tiny objects that become the key to unlocking the spiritual world of ancient people. After all, massive monuments can tell us where people lived and how they built their civilizations, but the objects placed beside the dead reveal something far more profound. They tell us what people believed, what they feared, and what they hoped would happen after they left this world. This time, our journey takes us back to the Mynasinsk Basin in southern Siberia, Russia, a region that has repeatedly produced discoveries that have reshaped archaeologists' understanding of the ancient nomadic cultures of Eurasia. In 2020, archaeologists excavated a series of burial mounds at a cemetery known as Kazanovka-1, dating from the late Bronze Age to the early Iron Age. This area was once home to the Tagar culture, which flourished from approximately the 8th century BC to the 2nd century BC. For decades, historians have regarded the Tagar people as one of the most important bronze-producing cultures in ancient Eurasia. They lived during roughly the same period as the Scythians of Crimea and the northern Black Sea region. Over many decades, hundreds of Tagar burial mounds have been excavated. From these excavations, archaeologists have recovered thousands of exquisitely crafted bronze artifacts. Yet none of those burials resembled tomb number 15 at Kazanovka-1. It contained an artifact that left the entire research team astonished. The tomb itself had a rather unusual design. The entire burial complex was enclosed by two concentric stone rings. At its center were 4 graves, including 3 adults buried in the central area. Archaeologists determined that the burial pit measured approximately 8.2 feet wide and 14.6 feet long, with its perimeter carefully lined by neatly arranged upright stone slabs. Another detail immediately caught the researchers' attention. Resting directly above the tomb cover was a horse skull. Among many nomadic cultures of the Eurasian steppes, horses were far more than a means of transportation. They also held deep spiritual significance, symbolizing strength, protection, and the journey that carried the deceased into the afterlife. It is possible that the Tagar people shared the same belief. The central figure buried in the tomb was a woman. She had been laid on her back with her head facing west. Surrounding her were numerous valuable grave goods. Archaeologists uncovered a ceramic vessel, a bronze mirror, a leather pouch, bronze plaques and pins, along with the meat and remains of a calf and a sheep. According to the researchers, burying animals alongside the dead was a tradition inherited from the earlier colossal culture, which predated the Tagar. This suggests that many older customs continued to be practiced by the Tagar people, yet none of these discoveries turned out to be the most extraordinary. Near the woman's right elbow, archaeologists uncovered a bronze amulet. At first glance, it appeared similar to other amulets discovered in previous Tagar burials. However, closer examination revealed something completely unexpected. Inside the amulet was the decayed remains of a small silk pouch. What stunned the research team was what the pouch contained. Inside was a fragment of human bone. Not animal bone. Human bone. The amulet itself was decorated with bronze beads, tubular carnelian beads, and a wild boar tusk suspended from its lower edge. It was an unusual combination of symbolic materials. According to archaeologists, the use of wild boar tusks, animal bones, or bird claws in protective amulets was not uncommon throughout the Minusinsk basin. Many other graves have yielded similar objects. Notably, these amulets almost always appear in the burials of women. This suggests that they may have been connected to the unique social or religious roles of women within Tagar society. The human bone fragment, however, is an entirely different matter. According to researchers, it is the only example ever recorded from burials belonging to the early phase of the Tagar culture. To this day, no other amulet containing human bone has ever been discovered. For that reason, it has become one of the greatest mysteries in Siberian archaeology. Researchers have proposed several different theories. Some believe the bone fragment carried magical significance and served as a protective charm for the deceased person's soul. Another theory suggests that it was part of a secondary burial ritual. In other words, after the woman had already been buried, her relatives or a ritual specialist may have reopened the grave and placed the amulet containing the human bone beside her as part of a final funerary ceremony. This type of ritual has been documented in certain prehistoric cultures of Western Asia. However, there is currently no direct evidence proving that the Tagar practiced the same custom. What is certain is that this remarkable amulet reflects an extraordinarily complex belief system. It suggests that the Tagar people not only believed in an afterlife, but also believed that certain sacred objects possessed the power to protect or guide the souls of the dead. Unfortunately, most of those traditions have disappeared over time. Archaeologists explain that studying the Tagar culture presents enormous challenges. Over the centuries, countless burial mounds have been looted by grave robbers. In addition, the natural conditions of the Minusinsk basin are unfavorable for preserving organic materials such as textiles, leather, and wood. Many priceless artifacts had completely decayed long before scientists were able to recover them. To make matters even more difficult, excavations conducted during the late 19th and early 20th centuries lacked modern archaeological recording methods, causing a great deal of valuable information to be lost forever. That is why every intact artifact discovered today carries extraordinary scientific value. The amulet containing a fragment of human bone is far more than an ancient object. It is like a message sent across 25 centuries, reminding us that many of the Tagar people's beliefs, rituals, and understanding of life and death remain mysteries that modern science has yet to unravel. The nearly perfectly preserved 50,000-year-old baby mammoth. A frozen treasure awakens after the Ice Age. Perhaps nowhere on Earth fills archaeologists and paleontologists with both excitement and concern, quite like Siberia in the Russian Federation. Each year, as the region's permafrost continues to thaw under the effects of climate change, more of the distant past is slowly revealed. Sometimes it is only a few ancient bones. Other times, it is the footprints of animals that disappeared from the earth thousands of years ago. But every so often, a discovery leaves the entire world astonished because it has remained almost perfectly preserved after lying frozen for tens of thousands of years. One of the most remarkable discoveries in recent years is the body of a baby woolly mammoth that is more than 50,000 years old, preserved in an almost pristine state. This extraordinary find not only opens a window into the Ice Age, but also gives scientists an unprecedented opportunity to better understand the ancient ecosystem that once flourished across Siberia. The discovery was made at the Botagaika crater in Yakutia, the Sakha Republic, Siberia, Russia. Despite its name, Botagaika is not actually a volcanic crater in the traditional sense. Instead, it is a massive sinkhole more than 260 feet deep, formed over decades as the underlying permafrost gradually thawed. Local residents have given it a rather ominous nickname, the gateway to the underworld. Viewed from above, Botagaika resembles an enormous scar that continues to widen across the Earth's surface. For many people, it is a stark reminder of the growing impacts of climate change. For scientists, however, it is also a natural archive, preserving countless secrets from the distant past. It was here that researchers discovered the body of the young mammoth buried deep within the frozen ground. Recovering the specimen, however, was anything but easy. Because of its considerable weight, researchers had to use a temporary stretcher to move it little by little, taking great care not to damage the remarkably well-preserved remains. According to the initial description, the animal resembled a modern elephant calf, complete with its characteristic trunk. It weighed approximately 243 pounds, making it roughly the size of a large calf today. What astonished scientists most was that after more than 50,000 years, its head and torso had remained exceptionally well preserved. Normally, once permafrost begins to thaw naturally, soft tissues such as the head, trunk, or internal organs are quickly destroyed by scavengers or carrion-feeding birds. But this specimen was completely different. Maxim Cherpasov, head of the Lazarev Mammoth Museum Laboratory in the city of Yakutsk, described it as one of the most complete mammoth specimens ever discovered. According to Cherpasov, the mammoth was likely a little over 1 year old when it died. Most remarkably, its head, torso, and much of its soft tissue have survived. That is extraordinarily rare. In most cases, scientists recover only bones or isolated body parts. This time, however, they have the rare opportunity to study almost the animal's entire body as it existed more than 50,000 years ago. Just imagine it for a moment. A young mammoth once wandered across the vast grasslands of the Ice Age. Then, suddenly, something happened. It died and became entombed beneath layers of frozen earth. More than 50 millennia later, it has emerged before modern humans looking almost exactly as it did on the day it died. Isn't that truly extraordinary? Yet behind this incredible miracle lies a story that deeply concerns scientists. Had the permafrost not been thawing so rapidly today, the mammoth's body might have remained buried underground for thousands of years to come. In other words, climate change has unintentionally revealed an archaeological treasure of immeasurable value. At the very same time, however, it is also destroying the natural environment that preserved these priceless specimens in the first place. Researchers report that the Botagaika crater continues to expand every year. That means many more ancient creatures are likely to emerge in the future, but it also means that countless other specimens could begin decomposing before scientists are able to recover them. It has become a race against time, and the mammoth is far from the only remarkable discovery. In recent years, Botagaika has yielded a series of astonishing finds. Researchers previously uncovered the remains of a 32,000-year-old saber-toothed cat cub. They also discovered an exceptionally well-preserved 44,000-year-old wolf. Each specimen serves as another important piece of the puzzle, helping scientists reconstruct the Ice Age ecosystem. These discoveries allow researchers to study ancient diets, habitats, climate conditions, and the evolutionary history of species that disappeared from the Earth long ago. Even more exciting, this baby mammoth presents a rare opportunity to analyze ancient DNA. If enough genetic material has survived, scientists will gain valuable new information about the evolutionary origins of woolly mammoths, compare their genomes with those of modern elephants, and better understand how these remarkable animals adapted to one of the harshest climates on Earth. That is also why modern biotechnology projects exploring the possibility of restoring or recreating certain traits of the woolly mammoth continue to attract enormous scientific interest. Of course, bringing a woolly mammoth back to life remains a highly debated topic within the scientific community. Even if that goal is never achieved, however, ancient DNA samples like this one remain invaluable for advancing our understanding of biology, evolution, and Earth's prehistoric past. 231,000-year-old baby teeth, the secret of the first people to conquer frozen Siberia. My friend, imagine this for a moment. If scientists were to discover nothing more than a tiny baby tooth buried deep beneath the frozen permafrost, do you think they could reconstruct the story of an entire civilization that vanished tens of thousands of years ago? It sounds like something out of science fiction, but that's exactly what happened in northeastern Siberia, Russia. From just two tiny baby teeth belonging to children who lived about 31,000 years ago, scientists were able to trace the history of one of the most mysterious ancient human populations ever to inhabit the Earth. Even more remarkably, this discovery has not only deepened our understanding of how humans survived the brutal conditions of the Ice Age, but has also provided an important clue about the origins of the first people to set foot in the Americas. The story begins at the Yana Rhinoceros Horn Site, an archaeological site in northeastern Siberia, Russia. It is one of the oldest known human settlements ever discovered within the Arctic region. In a study published in the journal Nature Communications, researchers analyzed the DNA of 34 ancient individuals excavated from the Yana site. Most significant were two baby teeth, dating to approximately 31,000 years ago. These became the oldest human remains from the site that still preserved usable genetic material. In addition, the research team successfully sequenced the DNA of a young man who lived about 10,000 years ago, allowing them to build a remarkably complete picture of how Siberia's ancient populations changed over tens of thousands of years. What amazed scientists most was the environment these people managed to survive. Think about it. 31,000 years ago, much of Siberia was buried beneath snow and ice. Winters lasted almost year-round. Temperatures could fall so low that every source of water froze solid. There were no modern homes, no fuel-powered heating systems, no insulated winter clothing like we have today. And yet they survived. Not only did they survive, they flourished. So how did they do it? To answer that question, scientists turned to ancient DNA analysis. By combining genetic evidence with archaeological artifacts, researchers concluded that the people of Yana were primarily hunter-gatherers. Their prey included enormous Ice Age animals that once dominated the frozen grasslands, such as woolly mammoths, woolly rhinoceroses, and bison. These were massive, powerful, and extremely dangerous animals. Successfully hunting them would have required exceptional skill, close teamwork, and extraordinary resilience. Professor Eska Willerslev of the University of Cambridge said that the ancient inhabitants of Yana were far more than people who simply survived in one of the harshest environments on Earth. They also represent an important branch in the evolutionary history of humankind. According to Willerslev, this population began separating from other human groups at roughly the same time that the ancestors of modern Europeans and modern Asians diverged. At one point in history, they may have occupied a vast territory stretching across much of northern Eurasia, but the most surprising discovery was yet to come. When researchers compared the ancient DNA with that of modern populations, they found that these people from northern Siberia were genetically more closely related to Europeans than to Asians, even though they lived at the far eastern edge of Eurasia. The analysis also showed that their ancestors had migrated into Siberia around 40,000 years ago, shortly after the ancestral lineages of Europeans and Asians began to split. This suggests that Siberia was not simply the far end of the Eurasian continent. Instead, it served as a crossroads where multiple ancient human populations met and mixed. Researchers describe their genome as a genetic mosaic because it contains traces of several different human populations that once lived across northern Eurasia. Perhaps the discovery that has excited the archaeological world most is the study's final conclusion. According to the research, these ancient people of northeastern Siberia were most likely close ancestors of the first groups who crossed the Bering Land Bridge and entered North America near the end of the Ice Age. In other words, two tiny baby teeth that lay undisturbed for more than 31 millennia have done far more than tell the story of human survival in frozen Siberia. They have also helped answer one of the greatest mysteries in human history. Where did the ancestors of the indigenous peoples of the Americas come from? But if just two tiny baby teeth are enough to change the way we understand the history of humankind, the next discovery from Siberia is even more astonishing. In the next chapter, we'll meet a ruler known as the Tutankhamun of Siberia, along with the mysterious woman who rested beside him for 2,600 years inside a tomb filled with thousands of gold artifacts. Let's uncover the secrets they left behind. The 2,600-year-old golden tomb and the royal couple known as the Tutankhamun of Siberia. If the previous discovery took us back to the Ice Age, where two tiny baby teeth transformed scientists' understanding of human origins, we now move to an entirely different chapter in Siberia's history. This time, we leave behind the mammoth hunters of the frozen wilderness and step into the world of a royal tomb so magnificent that archaeologists compared its owner to the most famous pharaoh of ancient Egypt. It is almost unbelievable that amid the vast grasslands and icy landscapes of the Tuva Republic in southern Siberia, Russia, there existed a royal burial containing thousands of gold artifacts, 14 sacrificed horses, and secrets that remained buried for more than 2,600 years. Even more remarkable is the fact that it took nearly half a century after the tomb's discovery before modern science was finally able to bring the true faces of those buried inside back to life. As incredible as it sounds, that is exactly what happened. The story began in 1977, when Soviet archaeologists excavated a massive burial mound in southern Siberia. From the very first layers of earth they removed, they realized they were dealing with something extraordinary. Hidden beneath the soil was an elaborately constructed burial chamber measuring approximately 258 square feet. Inside lay two skeletons resting side by side, covered with 9,300 decorative gold ornaments, along with thousands of exquisitely crafted gold artifacts. The discoveries did not end there. Archaeologists also uncovered 14 horses that had been buried alongside the tomb's occupants, a funerary practice reserved only for the highest-ranking members of ancient nomadic societies. The enormous quantity of gold and the lavish scale of the burial immediately reminded archaeologists of the legendary pharaoh of ancient Egypt. For that reason, the tomb's owner was given the nickname the Tutankhamun of Siberia. However, in the late 1970s, archaeological technology and facial reconstruction techniques were still quite limited. Both skeletons had suffered severe damage after lying underground for more than 2.5 millennia. Less than half of each skull had survived, making it nearly impossible to determine what the individuals had looked like. For decades, the tomb remained an enduring mystery. Everything changed with the rapid advancement of forensic facial reconstruction. A study published in the Journal of Archaeology, Anthropology, and Ethnography marked a major breakthrough. A team led by Dr. Elizaveta Veselovskaya of the Institute of Ethnology and Anthropology at the Russian Academy of Sciences used the surviving portions of the skulls together with modern reconstruction techniques to recreate the faces of the two individuals. The results astonished researchers. They revealed the face of a man with a strong, square jaw, determined eyes, and features that projected unmistakable authority. Beside him appeared a young woman with refined, delicate features that nevertheless conveyed dignity and noble status. Based on the skeletal evidence, grave goods, and burial arrangement, researchers concluded that the pair died approximately 2,600 years ago, during the early period of the Scythian culture, the famous warrior people who once dominated the vast Eurasian steppes. Scientists did more than reconstruct their faces. They also recreated the ceremonial clothing the two individuals likely wore on the day of their burial. The man is believed to have been a king or powerful tribal ruler. His garments were covered with thousands of tiny gold panther ornaments, creating one of the most magnificent ceremonial outfits ever discovered. Every individual gold ornament was crafted with extraordinary precision, demonstrating the remarkable metalworking skills of the ancient people of Siberia. The woman, meanwhile, was buried with blue beads, gold bracelets, gold clothing pins, and a small pouch believed to have contained cosmetics. These grave goods clearly indicate that she occupied an exceptionally high position in society. At first, many researchers assumed the pair were a king and queen. However, after a more detailed analysis of the burial rituals and the placement of the bodies, the research team proposed a very different theory. According to the study's authors, as well as several experts cited by Ancient Origins and the Daily Mail, the woman was likely not the queen. Instead, she may have been a favored royal consort. After the king's death, she may have been sacrificed and buried alongside him so that she could continue accompanying him in the afterlife. Of course, this remains only a hypothesis, but if it is correct, the story behind this tomb becomes even more haunting. Archaeologists also discovered the remains of 33 additional individuals within the burial complex. Researchers believe they may have been sacrificed during the king's funeral to serve him in the world beyond death. Just imagine the scene: a king resting in the center of a chamber covered in gold. Beside him lies a young woman chosen to accompany him for eternity. Surrounding them are 14 horses and more than 30 people who may have given, or been forced to give, their lives as part of an elaborate royal burial ceremony. They remained undisturbed beneath the earth for more than 26 centuries before being awakened once again by the light of modern science. What does all of this tell us? Doesn't it give us a far deeper understanding of the funeral rituals, political power, and spiritual beliefs of the ancient Scythians? And doesn't it also demonstrate that Siberia was once home to remarkably sophisticated and wealthy civilizations, far removed from the common image of a land defined only by endless snow and bitter cold? Discoveries like this remind us just how fascinating and how mysterious history truly is. The 50,000-year-old crown from Denisova Cave, stunning evidence of the intelligence of prehistoric humans. From the gold-covered tomb of Scythian rulers, we now turn the clock back tens of thousands of years. This time, our journey takes us to what appears to be an ordinary cave nestled among the majestic mountains of southern Siberia. Yet this unassuming cave has repeatedly astonished the archaeological world with discoveries that have the potential to rewrite the history of human evolution. This is Denisova Cave, located in the Altai Mountains of the Altai Republic, Russia. If you're fascinated by archaeology, you've probably heard the name Denisova before. It was here that scientists discovered the remains of the Denisovans, an ancient human group entirely distinct from both Neanderthals and modern humans. That discovery fundamentally changed our understanding of human evolution. But surprisingly, Denisova Cave seems far from finished revealing its secrets. The latest evidence came during a recent excavation conducted by archaeologists from the Institute of Archaeology and Ethnography, Siberian branch of the Russian Academy of Sciences. During the excavation, they uncovered an extraordinary artifact. At first, it appeared to be nothing more than several small fragments of mammoth ivory scattered throughout an ancient layer of sediment. No one could say with confidence what they had once belonged to. Only after painstakingly fitting the fragments back together did researchers realize they were holding one of the oldest pieces of personal adornment ever discovered in northern Asia. It was a crown, or more accurately, a headband, crafted entirely from woolly mammoth ivory. According to laboratory analysis, the artifact dates to somewhere between 35,000 and 50,000 years ago, making it one of the oldest known pieces of jewelry ever discovered in northern Europe and northern Asia. Just think about that for a moment. 50,000 years ago, humans were still living during the Paleolithic or Old Stone Age. There were no metals, no machines, no advanced tools of any kind. Yet they were capable of creating an object so sophisticated that modern experts have spent years trying to understand exactly how it was made. What does that tell us? Even more remarkable than its incredible age is the craftsmanship behind it. Scientists believe prehistoric artisans first obtained a section of tusk from a woolly mammoth, the giant Ice Age animal that once roamed across Siberia before eventually becoming extinct. The ivory was then cut into thin strips. To prevent it from cracking, researchers believe the craftsmen may have soaked the ivory in water for a period of time to soften the material. Once it became flexible enough, they carefully bent it into the desired shape. But the work did not stop there. The headband was repeatedly scraped, carved, drilled, polished, and refined until it achieved an exceptionally smooth surface. This process alone demonstrates remarkable craftsmanship, extraordinary patience, and an impressive level of technical skill. Without a clear design in mind and highly skilled hands, creating such a delicate object using nothing more than crude stone tools would have been nearly impossible. At first, the research team remained cautious. Because the ivory fragments were incomplete, they could not immediately conclude that the object had actually been a crown or headband. However, as the analysis progressed, the evidence became increasingly convincing. The largest surviving fragment measures about 6 inches in length, far larger than an ordinary bracelet. More importantly, the entire artifact possesses a natural curve that closely matches the circumference of a human head. Under microscopic examination, scientists also identified extensive wear patterns, including tiny scratches, areas of abrasion, and polished surfaces produced by prolonged contact with organic materials such as human hair and skin. These traces provide compelling evidence that the object was worn on someone's head for a long period of time, rather than serving as a decorative ornament or a discarded piece of raw material. But that discovery immediately raises another fascinating question. What did this ancient crown actually represent? Was it a symbol of authority worn by a tribal leader? Was it simply a practical headband used to keep hair out of the way during hunting? Or perhaps it identified a particular family, clan, or spiritual ceremony that has long since been lost to history? To this day, archaeologists have been unable to provide a definitive answer. And perhaps that uncertainty makes this remarkable artifact even more fascinating. After all, isn't an unanswered question sometimes far more valuable than an answer we already know? The nearly 3,000-year-old Scythian prince's tomb that hid an untouched treasure. After exploring the 50,000-year-old mammoth ivory crown from Denisova Cave, today's journey concludes with a discovery that many archaeologists believe could transform our understanding of one of the most mysterious and powerful peoples of the ancient world. They were the Scythians, the nomadic warriors who once inspired fear across the vast Eurasian continent. Unlike the civilizations of Egypt or Mesopotamia, the Scythians did not build monumental cities or magnificent stone palaces. Instead, what they left beneath the earth has become an irresistible treasure for archaeologists. Enormous burial mounds filled with gold, weapons, mummies, and countless secrets have rested undisturbed for thousands of years. Our final destination is the Uyuk Valley in the Tuva Republic, southern Siberia, Russia, near the country's northern border with Mongolia. For many years, archaeologists from around the world have referred to this remarkable region by a name that immediately captures the imagination: the Valley of the Kings of Siberia. The name alone evokes comparisons with Egypt's famous Valley of the Kings. And for good reason. For nearly 3 millennia, this valley has served as the final resting place of numerous Scythian rulers and members of the royal elite. During a recent archaeological survey, researchers from the Swiss National Science Foundation identified an enormous burial mound that they believe may be the oldest and largest known royal Scythian tomb ever discovered. According to the researchers, the tomb dates back approximately 2,800 years, making it nearly 3,000 years old. It was constructed during the transitional period between the Bronze Age and the Iron Age, a time of dramatic social change across the Eurasian steppes that saw the rise of the powerful nomadic Scythian culture. What makes this discovery extraordinary is not simply its age. Initial surveys revealed that the burial mound is so enormous that its diameter exceeds the length of a modern football field. Standing before such a monument, one can immediately sense the immense power and prestige of the individual buried beneath it. For that reason, archaeologists believe the tomb's occupant was most likely a Scythian prince or another highly influential leader. Unlike many ancient civilizations that left behind temples and permanent cities, the Scythians built few lasting settlements. Their lives revolved around vast herds of livestock, endless migrations on horseback, and military campaigns across the sweeping grasslands of Eurasia. As a result, their burial mounds preserve nearly everything we know about their civilization. Previous excavations have shown that royal Scythian tombs were typically constructed as large circular earthen mounds containing an elaborate network of burial chambers. The walls were built from massive pine logs, while the deceased were buried alongside an extraordinary collection of grave goods, including swords, spears, bows and arrows, horse saddles, gold jewelry, decorative ornaments, and ceremonial objects. Yet the aspect of this discovery that excites archaeologists the most has nothing to do with the treasure itself. This tomb was built in permafrost. Do you know what that means? In archaeology, permafrost functions like a giant natural freezer. Its consistently low temperatures can preserve wood, leather, textiles, carpets, food, and even human remains in astonishing condition for thousands of years. It is precisely because of these exceptional conditions that excavations in the Uyuk Valley since the 1970s have uncovered naturally frozen Scythian mummies with their hair, skin, and clothing still remarkably well preserved. That is why archaeologists have such high hopes for this newly discovered tomb. According to researchers, the burial mound lies within a marshy area about 0.6 miles from previously known burial complexes. The swampy, difficult-to-reach terrain unintentionally served as a natural shield, protecting the tomb from grave robbers for nearly 3,000 years. That difference is critically important. Many of the world's most famous tombs were looted hundreds or even thousands of years ago, causing countless priceless artifacts to disappear forever. But in the case of the Scythian burial, archaeologists believe there is a strong possibility that it remains largely untouched. Gino Caspari, a Swiss archaeologist from the University of Bern, believes the discovery could open an entirely new window into a period of history that scientists still know very little about. According to Caspari, if fortune is on the team's side, they may uncover perfectly preserved wooden carvings, ancient carpets protected beneath layers of stone, leather objects, or even frozen Scythian mummies still dressed in their original clothing and accompanied by all of their personal belongings. If that happens, we won't simply be looking at a handful of isolated artifacts. Instead, we may witness an almost complete picture of the life of a Scythian prince nearly 3,000 years ago. From the way he dressed and carried his weapons to how he rode horses and practiced the spiritual rituals of his people. It would represent a living archive unlike anything that even the finest history books could ever fully recreate. The Scythians dominated the vast Eurasian steppes, stretching from Eastern Europe to Central Asia, from approximately the 9th century BC through the 1st century BC. They were renowned as fearless cavalry warriors, master archers, and formidable opponents feared by many of the great civilizations of their time. Yet despite their immense influence, we know surprisingly little about their everyday lives because they left behind almost no written records. That is why every Scythian tomb that archaeologists uncover is like opening another long-lost chapter in the story of human history. Perhaps that is exactly what gives Siberia its unique fascination for archaeologists. From the 31,000-year-old baby teeth discovered at the Yana archaeological site, which helped reveal the migration journey of our ancient ancestors, to the 2,600-year-old golden tomb of the ruler known as the Tutankhamun of Siberia, then the 35,000 to 50,000-year-old mammoth ivory crown found in Denisova Cave, and finally, the nearly 3,000-year-old Scythian prince's tomb, which may still be preserving untouched treasures and perfectly preserved mummies beneath the frozen permafrost. Each discovery is like another piece of a giant puzzle, gradually reconstructing the history of one of the coldest regions on Earth. So, which discovery impressed you the most in today's journey? Was it the 31,000-year-old baby teeth that helped reshape our understanding of human migration? The gold-filled tomb of the Scythian king? The mysterious prehistoric mammoth ivory crown? Or the Scythian prince's tomb that may still lie untouched beneath the frozen ground? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear which discovery fascinated you the most. And if you enjoy mysterious stories about history and archaeology like these, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you won't miss our future adventures into the past. For now, thank you so much for watching. Goodbye, and we'll see you in the next video.